Now, when that happened, was it at that point that you realized just how much of a mess you had caused in your life? Welcome to the VetRise Podcast. I'm your host, Juan Perez. My goal is to make success after service accessible to every veteran in society. I believe in the power of leveraging your service, not as a label that defines you, but as a launching pad for your next chapter. What we have been doing hasn't been working, and it's on us to start changing the culture. Enjoy the episode, and thank you for your time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the VetRise Podcast. I'm your host, Juan Perez. Today is going to be something different. Now, I told myself that I was going to wait until I had been doing this for a little bit longer. I had some stuff set up. I had a following. And then before I knew it, we were at 3,000. We will be soon enough. We are at 300 downloads right now, and it's only been about, I think, 7 days, maybe 9 days, right? And that's pretty impressive. Now, the reason why today is going to be a little bit different is because it's not just me today. Today we have a guest appearance. Today we have Stephen Munding on the podcast. Now, Stephen and his wife Savannah have been with me in the VetRise Academy now going on a few months now. And they just renewed for an entire year. Now, why is any of this important? Well, they decided to take it into their hands. They decided to take action, which we talk about a lot, and they decided to take a drive all the way out to Chicago just to come see me. They organized a dinner with all of the VetRise Academy students here in the Chicagoland area, and it was absolutely amazing. Now, why does any of this matter to you? Well, when you take action, when you make the decision to do something about something in your life, that's when you can make something happen for yourself. Now, I'll be introducing Stephen here shortly, but I also want to address something else. Stephen spoke up. He decided that he was not going to just sit idly by and live his life the way he'd been living it. Even though he's making some changes in his life, he still wanted more. Closed mouths don't get fed. Again, I said that I was not going to be launching this podcast as far as having guests anytime soon, but here we are. Now, the reason why I'm doing it today is because Stephen spoke up and he asked if he could be on the podcast. And just like that, without even thinking about it, because he took initiative and he made action, he made it happen for himself, here we are on his very first podcast, our very first guest, Stephen Munding. So here with Stephen Munding, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor to him. We're going to start off by just stating some things that are obvious. I'm not a podcaster, or I wasn't. Now I am. Now I can't say that I'm not a podcaster because I do this. I podcast. I have a podcast. Stephen's never been on a podcast. This is his very first podcast. And that says something, right? Because he took action. Stephen Munding, welcome to the show. Do me a favor. Introduce yourself. Tell us all about you.
I'm Stephen Munding. I'm 31 years old. I served 8 years in the infantry, and the last couple of years have been very challenging, but since I joined this program, it's really changed and turned my life around. I've stopped a bunch of bad habits just in the short time I've been here. I've only been here since January. So VetRise Academy has definitely changed my life and my wife's life. And now my kids can see that. My kids can see me thriving, which will encourage my family to thrive. And
where are you from?
I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there for about 12 years of my 12 years of my childhood. Mm-hmm. I moved up to Oregon in 2004.
Now, speaking about you being with VetRise Academy, we'll definitely talk a little bit about that, but I want to know what was it specifically that spoke to you about my videos, my program? What brought you to here? What made you raise your hand?
What brought me to you was that I've struggled since 2019, since I got out. I've really just struggled. I've been okay, but I'm done just being okay. I want to be great, I want to be a better version of myself, and that's why I joined VetRise Academy, because I know what I'm capable of.
And what are you capable of?
Sky's the limit.
So what do you think was your biggest issue when you left the military? And I'm gonna be brutal here with you, because I coach you, I know you, and I want you to really open up. I want you to be vulnerable. I'm challenging you here. As you and I sit here in a conference room at a hotel that you are staying at, recording a podcast, we're both out of our comfort zone. So what I'm gonna do right here is I'm gonna change the tempo a little bit. You and I are gonna have a conversation just like this. We're not gonna worry about the microphone. We're gonna leave all this in here because it's gonna be fucking raw. And we're gonna fucking dig deep, and we're gonna do like we do on our coaching calls, and we're gonna do like we do. We're gonna fucking dig deep, and we're gonna spill some fucking guts, and we're gonna allow ourselves to be a little bit fucking vulnerable, right? So what was the reason why you decided to fucking join this program? What the fuck were you doing with your life? And were you even happy?
I was throwing it away with alcohol and bad habits, and I was going to the gym, but I was still doing these bad habits.
What are the bad habits?
Drinking.
Why?
Because that was my comfort, and my family, I come from, drinking.
So you went into the military. You drank all the time, I assume, in the military.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you get out. And then did you have a successful transition?
I wouldn't say I had an unsuccessful transition, but it wasn't a successful transition. I could have done better. I could have taken a different approach.
What was the hardest thing about leaving the military for you?
The stability and the brotherhood. I lost a lot of relationships, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of, the military bullshit was still there. But the main thing I missed about the military was just the brotherhood,
Mm-hmm. Was it a sense of belonging, would you say?
Sense of purpose.
Fuck.
I didn't want to get out when I did.
What do you mean?
I was going through a really, really tough challenge back in 2018.
Yeah.
And I hit rock bottom. I did.
How so?
I was
It's okay. This is all new territory for me and for you.
Yeah, this is new territory. I was drinking heavily, and I had like 3 different jobs as a platoon armor. So I had to make sure all my weapons and stuff were clean. I was a team leader,
Mm-hmm.
and I was also in charge of being a saw gunner too.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 3 different positions, and I had my 2 kids and my ex-wife, which was part of one of my biggest challenges was my ex-wife, and she was making my life a living hell. And then the pressure just got to me. I drank about 2.5 bottles one night of Jameson, and then I called up my platoon sergeant, and I said, I'm not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing well, I need help.
So you went through something and you asked for help while you were in. What was the result of that?
Well, I stayed in the hospital for about 4 or 5 days, away from my kids, which was hard, but I knew I needed to get the help. I knew I needed to, because if I stayed in that house that night, it wouldn't have been good.
I know that this is hard to talk about, but I want to remind you that talking about these things is important. What we have been doing, Stephen, in this veteran culture is not working because we bring the military mindset with us and we don't leave it behind, and it hurts us. Because in the military, we learned that we couldn't suffer, we couldn't talk about problems, we couldn't be that, right?
Right.
Now that we're out, we have to understand that it's okay to talk about these things. Now that we're out, we have to understand that it's normal to get help. It's okay to go to therapy. So like you talking about this is going to help somebody else. Somebody needs to hear this, whether they're still in, maybe they've been out for 3 or 4 years, but they want to hear your story. So go ahead and tell me what happened while you were at the hospital.
I pretty much did, therapy sessions, medication. I didn't have any electronics, so I didn't have my phone, so I could call my family. I called my family via like landline, telephone, stuff like that. I actually called my dad while I was in.
Yeah?
And I told...
What did you tell him?
I was like, because I went to the hospital because I told my chain of command I was suicidal at the time.
Yeah.
And my dad, he said one word to me, and it sticks to me to this day.
Your dad was also in?
My dad was in the service too. He's a PJ, pararescue.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our job titles. But he called me a coward for getting help. And I was pissed. I was fucking pissed. Like, I was being vulnerable at the time, and it led to, me and my dad didn't talk for months after that. And
Wow.
This was while I was up at Fort Drum.
So while you were at the hospital, you called your dad, and he called you a coward for getting help.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked about this before?
To my wife, yeah. But not.
How does it feel saying it right now?
Not in therapy yet. No. Because I go to therapy weekly. But right now, it's a little tough because I've never been, we're always taught to hide our emotions and hide our feelings. But like we always say, closed mouths don't get fed.
So what was the result of you going to the hospital, asking for help, and actually trying to get help?
At first, it didn't pan out for me. Meaning, my wife at the time, which is my kids' mom.
Yeah.
She booked it with the kids, so that just made the whole situation worse.
So you were at the hospital, called your wife,
My
ex-wife, excuse me. And then what happened?
I called my dad, actually.
Okay.
I didn't even call her. But that's when my dad called me a coward and stuff, and I just kind of shut down.
Yeah.
Because I just shut down completely.
So being in the military, being infantry, right? You're taught a certain way of life, and would you say that it serves you when you're in because you need to be that tough motherfucker? You need to be able to lead. You need to be able to fight a fucking war. You need to be able to do all these things while you're in. And all of it wears on you. And maybe you do end up in the hospital. Maybe you do need help, because we all do. We did then. We just never spoke up because it was the way that it was. Right?
Right. We don't. It's the way it was. I got out of the hospital and I got looked at a couple ways, but I didn't let that affect me. I still just did my therapy sessions.
When you say you got looked at a couple ways, what do you mean?
I got looked down to, like,
by your peers?
Yeah, by my peers. Kind of made the situation worse, and then I went up to my first sergeant. I was like, hey, is there any way to get out? Is there any way I can? And we got out. I got out.
Yeah.
Took about a year later, but they did it honorably. I did it on their terms.
Mm-hmm.
And, I served my time.
Now, what was your experience when in the military as far as, like, did you deploy? What kind of life did you have while you were in? Stuff like that.
Yes, I deployed twice. They were actually out of Fort Riley.
Okay.
I was in a mechanized unit. I actually had 2 units at Fort Riley because my first unit I went into was 118 Infantry.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Bravo Company.
Yeah.
And I was actually a driver for Bradley at the time.
Where'd you deploy to?
I went to Djibouti. I went to the Horn of Africa.
Okay.
For 7 months. And then I went to Kuwait, which led to other missions that I went on.
Yeah.
Parts of Iraq during that second one.
Yeah. And when you decided to ask for help, I'm assuming that's when all of this happened, and then you asked your first sergeant if there was any way for you to get out because you felt ostracized. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say, yes.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in here for a second. So I've talked a lot about this on other episodes, but right here is proof that when you decide to speak up in the military, you are ostracized and you get to a position where, look what happened to you. You decided to get out. And you probably have a hard time dealing with that decision to this day. But it doesn't matter anymore. Here's why. In my opinion, the fact that that happened to you, you can't change. You made the decision. You are here. It wasn't necessarily wrong or right. I think that you asking for help means a lot. But I think the problem happens when you get out and you keep those things with you. You keep that memory of you asking for help and then you being called a coward by your dad and then you being ostracized. And then you get out and you go through this new fucking society that we're in and you feel this shell shock. And then you don't know what to say or who to ask because, well, look what happened the last time you spoke up. And that's the problem. We bring so much baggage from the military into this culture that we're now a part of that it doesn't serve you. So then what happened? So you got out. And what happened next? What did you face when you hit society? What kind of things did you go through? I'm digging you. I'm telling you to dig deep because we're sitting here and I know it's uncomfortable.
I try to hit the new normal.
Yeah.
Try to find my new normal. Basically, I was just trying to get back into society because we're in the military. It's part of society, but it's like.
Yeah, but it's also not.
It's also not at the same time, which if you're in, you'll know. You'll know the feeling, you'll know the struggle. But getting out, just trying to find that next... I'm still trying to find it, to be honest with you.
So what was next for you when you got out? Where did you move to?
I moved to Salina, Kansas.
Who'd you move in with, or how'd that happen?
I moved in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself.
What happened to your wife at the time and your kids?
So prior to getting out, I actually got divorced about 2 months before I got out. So June 6th of 2019, I was officially divorced. So from October of 2018 to June is how long that divorce process took.
A long time.
Because I had to make extra trips down to Kansas to get the divorce done.
Yeah. So you get divorced, and then you get out, and you move into a small apartment. Who'd you move in with?
By myself.
By yourself. And then what was the first job that you got? What did you do? Did you apply for benefits? Did you go to the VA? Did you get college? Like, what was the thing for you that you did?
My thing about benefits, I set up I had a very good chain of command at the time prior to getting out.
Yeah.
Any advice I can give about setting your appointments up prior, if you're still in and you're listening to this, go set your appointments up prior to getting out. So once you get out, you have your ducks in a row. Make sure you have all your medical records, everything documented prior to doing your Q&A or your Q&A.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll definitely push the process of if you're fighting for disability, you got an injury or...
Yeah. So you were able to get everything set up before you got out?
I had all my appointments and everything lined up.
Okay. So you went to your appointments, which is fucking awesome. And how did that work out? Everything went smooth with that?
Everything went smooth. I did my behavioral health checks, my physicals, my hearing, and then a month later, I got my first rating.
So it took you roughly a month from when you filed?
2 months is when I first got my first benefits from.
So you hear a lot where like people have all these horror stories about the VA, but you don't hear these stories too often, which is why it's important to talk about this. So like I like this story because it shows that you can make something happen for yourself if you actually advocate for yourself and make it happen. So then that went well. What about getting a job and what else happened?
Getting a job, I actually, prior to getting out, I was kind of proactive and not reactive. I contacted the City of Salina Workforce Office. I contacted them, and
Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name, but he really kind of advocated for me. It was probably about a month, 2 months prior to me even getting out. I've been talking to this dude. The company's not in Salina anymore. I worked for building like buses.
Okay.
Buses for like, you see those City Go buses.
Yeah.
You see all sorts of.
And that's something that you kind of set up before you got out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that you can do.
Yes, is just contact if you know where you're gonna be, your location. Even if it's a temp job, you're still getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
If it's going to school, making sure that you're signing up for your GI Bill properly and submitting in the proper documents.
Yeah. And is that something you did?
To the school. I didn't do that right away. I did go to school eventually.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't gonna use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually used it.
Okay. So you're going through your transition. You got out. You got a job. You're living in this place in Kansas, right?
Yes.
And at what point did you realize that maybe there was something a little bit off with you based on the fact that you left the military and you brought some baggage with you that maybe you weren't that proud of? Now, I'm asking you this because I want you to think about it and be open here, right? Because this message, it's for you 5 years ago. Whoever's hearing this, like, it can speak to them. Maybe they're going through this. Maybe they know someone that's going through this, and maybe they can send them this podcast. Maybe they can send them this episode. Maybe they can share your story. So this is an opportunity for you to talk about it, right?
Right.
So talk to me about some of the hard shit that happened when you got out, even if it's something that you haven't talked about before.
The hard shit that really got me was the whole reason why I came to Kansas was my kids were there.
Yeah.
You know? I wanted to be with my kids' life.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason why I got out, because my kids weren't there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to serve when you don't have your family.
Because of the divorce and she moved to Kansas.
She took off with the kids.
Mm.
I didn't let that affect me too much. I mean, I called my kids every single day. But I didn't let it affect me correction, it affected me a lot. I was drinking a lot. I was not being healthy. But there were some things I needed to change.
Were you drinking a lot when you were in?
Yes.
And then you got out and you were drinking a lot still?
Yes.
But there was no one else around you to look after you?
No. I didn't have that platoon sergeant to tell me no. I didn't have that squad leader to be like, here, dude, I got you. I'm going to pick you up. You get into the civilian, get back into society.
Yeah.
That you don't have that battle buddy looking after you. You kind of got to find your own way a little bit.
And you're kind of alone. You had someone that helped you get work, but they don't understand everything you've been through, right? So what was the next step for you? What happened after you're going through all this? You're doing the drinking now all the time. Did something break the camel's back? What was it that caused that final straw for you? Or what was it for you that made you go into a bad place or a good place? Like, tell me what happened next.
Shortly after getting out, I met my wife now, Savannah. It was really rocky in the beginning with me and her.
Yeah.
We weren't really in a good spot. But we made it work. I mean, I was still drinking a lot.
Yeah.
So from 2019 to 2023, I was still drinking.
How often?
A lot.
How often?
Every day.
Okay.
It's a lot.
What were you drinking?
Beer, and then I'll switch over to liquor, and then mix the two. And I was very toxic, and I wasn't in a good headspace.
How were you toxic?
I would yell. I would.
Were you still working at this time?
Yes, I was. And a lot of it too is I went through a lot of jobs.
Okay.
Since I've been out too, and that was part of it.
When you say a lot of jobs, how many are we talking?
So from 2019 to 2024, so to current, I've been through probably about 15 jobs.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. And a lot of it I'm going to put on me too. Some of it wasn't all the employers. It was me.
Did you know that then? Or do you think that's something you can look back on now and realize that it was your doing?
I didn't know that then until my wife recently said something to me. She told me that, I mean, you get bored easy. And then you let your depression take over. And then your depression runs wild. And then next thing you know, you're leaving that job. You're getting bored.
Yeah. Do you think that comes...
Or you're getting laid off.
Do you think that comes from the fact that you did something exciting in the military and then you can find something that was just as exciting?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's probably a part of a lot of it.
We'll talk about that a little bit. I want to hear more about that.
Can you repeat that?
So talk a little bit about, you said you get bored easily. And then she mentioned to you that you let the depression take over. And then we said that, is it because you did something so exciting in the military that it's hard to find that rush again when you're out and you felt maybe like you weren't doing anything meaningful?
It all comes to purpose. For me, anyways. Purpose.
And did you feel like you didn't have purpose?
I felt like I didn't have any purpose. That's why I was just going from job to job, just trying to find that next push.
And you couldn't find purpose within yourself at the time?
Correct.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you couldn't find purpose, Steven?
Probably a mindset thing.
All right.
For me, mindset is just, getting in my own head,
So at this time, you're out, you're with Savannah, and you keep going from job to job. Have you been talking to your dad at all during this time after what he said to you when you were getting out or when you were in the hospital?
Yeah, I talked to my dad shortly after. Me and my dad I have two brothers as well. I am the closest. I was the closest one to my dad.
Okay.
Out of the three brothers, and I live the furthest away. They live in the same state.
Okay.
But yeah, I was really close to my dad at the time. And I stayed that way, even though sometimes my wife told me he was toxic.
What was the result of you getting out? What did he have to say about that?
He thought it was good for me to get out, to be with my kids, be a dad. Because he honestly didn't approve of my first or my second marriage, so.
Okay. So this would be marriage number 3 for you?
Correct.
Okay.
So I've been divorced twice. My first one was.
That happens a lot, doesn't it?
It does. The divorce rate in the military is like roughly about 88%. I don't know if that's accurate, but.
I think not only is that probably accurate, I think that the divorces that happen after you get out of the military can also be because of your time in the military. Because I know for me it was. I went through a divorce in 2018. So we're going to flip the switch a little bit, and I'm going to decide to be a little bit vulnerable here. Because it shouldn't just be you talking about your shit, because then it feels like it's one-sided. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a little bit and talk, right? So it's your turn to ask me questions. And I'll fucking talk.
So you said you went through two divorces as well, correct? Or one?
Two.
Did both of them happen in the military?
No, the first one I was married when I was in the military. And it was not love. It was out of convenience. It was to live off base. It was to be able to get BAH. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And it was definitely just her and I. We had a connection, but I did it for the wrong reasons. She did it because she thought she loved me, and it was absolutely meaningless. Completely meaningless. And I developed a very, very fucking bad relationship with relationships. So because of that, I didn't know what the hell a marriage should be or should not be. Because the first marriage was completely for the wrong reasons, and I went into it thinking about how can it benefit me instead of realizing that it's a partnership. I was young, dumb, and just full of just all these hopes and dreams of, oh, well, this will benefit me for this will benefit me for that. That marriage ended up in divorce before I even got out, basically. And then I got out, and I got out for this other girl that I thought was something amazing. And I thought that it was love. But what the hell did I know about love? And that was the reason why I didn't re-enlist, honestly. I'm sure there's other reasons in there, but that was the main reason of like why I'm getting out. Because I'm going to move in with her. I'm going to live a life with her. We're going to create something. But again, like I had no business getting married the first time or the second time. And it was unfair to her. And it hurt her. And it's something that I regret. Not because of what it did to me. I learned a lot from it. But because I feel like, in a way, she became the sacrifice of me learning some really big fucking lessons. And that is so unfair to her. And that's something that I'm still coming to terms with. Yeah. Keep them coming.
I could relate a lot to what you just said.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
So the first marriage, well, was it a little bit?
My first marriage was, so I was in a bad spot, a really bad spot. I was up in Oregon. I was National Guard at the time.
Yeah.
I loved my unit too. I got out of basic training, all high and mighty, all cocky and shit.
Yeah,
And,
that's what the military does to you.
Then I got back, got out, or went to my drills, did my thing, and then I moved out of my house, thought I was a badass. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up homeless.
Really? While you were in the National Guard?
While I was in the National Guard, I was homeless for a couple months. So
were you working besides the National Guard?
It was job market at the time was crap.
Okay, so you weren't working.
No, I was not
You
working.
were going to drill, and you were homeless.
I was staying in a homeless shelter me and her. So.
Yo, you with her? Wow.
And yeah, that was rough. I called my dad. He's like, "You made your bed. You lay in it."
So did you meet her before all this?
I met her right after I got that basic. So that was my first marriage.
And then how is it that you guys ended up in a homeless shelter, living there?
Irresponsibility.
Okay.
I would have to say. I mean, it was her place. I didn't have my place yet because I just,
So you get a little bit of power, you get into the military, you're this big bad motherfucker, and you're like, I'm moving out of my place. You find this girl, you move into her place, all of a sudden shit falls apart.
Shit falls apart.
Okay.
So the next thing I did was, do the right thing. I walked into a recruiting office. I was like, hey, how can I go active duty?
And how hard was that process?
I was the first soldier in 4 years to go active duty from the Oregon National Guard.
In that
at
state?
The time. Yeah. So it was very hard. It wasn't, they don't just let people go.
Huh, okay. And what year was this?
2013.
Okay. 2013.
So it took me 4 months. I went August 7th of 2013 is when I went to active duty.
Okay. And then obviously things fell apart with the marriage.
Things fell apart with the marriage. I got down to Fort Riley. And my unit says, hey, we're deploying in 2 months.
So you guys went from being together, you're in the National Guard. She didn't ever expect you to maybe deploy, at least not that quickly. And then you join or you go active duty, and then they tell you you're deploying in 2 months. Huh.
That was when I went to the Horn of Africa.
And I'm assuming that affected your marriage.
It affected my marriage prior. I mean, yeah, it affected my marriage, but I mean, I'm married her for the whole army, just like you said.
Yeah. Well, we're young, man. Like, how old were you then?
20?
Yeah. Like, we don't really know what the hell love is.
No.
We don't.
So, we're on deployment.
Yeah.
Doing our thing.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I'm gonna take a couple steps back. So prior to deployment, we're about to leave up 4 days before.
Okay.
Me and her get in an argument. And this happens more often than not. Somebody has to leave in the domestic.
Yeah.
Like if there's arguing going on, somebody has to leave.
Are you living on base?
I was living on base, and I had to leave.
MPs were called?
MPs were called. They told me to leave 3 days before we were deploying.
Huh.
So I couldn't even be in my house for the last 3 days. I stayed in a hotel.
Kids at this time?
She had one.
She had one, okay. So you had to stay in a hotel.
And then she had a kid that she claimed was mine.
Okay. Wasn't.
So I was like, I don't have time for this shit. We packed our bags. We went overseas. I had to deal with all that baggage once I got back.
Huh.
So I had to spend 7 months. Well, she was gone within a month of deployment. So I was like, okay. My first sergeant comes up to me. He's like, hey, we could either have. I could either kick you out of the army, because she's causing chaos, or you can get a divorce. At the time, I'm brand new to the military. I'm like,
Yeah.
she's not worth my time.
Yeah.
So I was just focused on mission, Charlie Mike, doing my thing. Get back. My house is locked. Couldn't get in it.
Because she took the keys.
Yeah. It was on-base housing, so, I mean, I just called the housing office.
Right. But you come home, she's gone. Okay.
She moved back up to Oregon. So I had to file for divorce, get a lawyer, claim. There's a kid born during the marriage, a month before deployment, that she claimed was mine.
Oh, so the kid was born before?
Before deployment.
So she was out there doing who knows what?
Yeah.
Oh.
And
the kid's not yours?
The kid wasn't mine.
Okay.
So I get a lawyer, I come up to Oregon, do my thing, file for divorce, my dad helps me out.
Okay.
And go to court, kid wasn't mine. See ya. I'm out.
So done with that.
I dodged a bullet there.
All right. Okay. Well, what I like about that story, what comes up for me is that senior leadership, they know best, and they also think they know best. So like you had a first sergeant telling you either we'd kick you out or you get a divorce. Kind of give you an ultimatum, right? And I think that serves a purpose when you're in. Why? Because that first sergeant probably has been through that before. He's probably had experience with that, or he's had soldiers that had experience with that. And you're young, he's older, and he gives you the advice that you need. But then we take that experience, and then we get out, and we don't have anyone looking out for us the same way. So even though, like, when you're in, everybody hates the first sergeant, or you think that the staff sergeant is out to fuck you over or whatever, like, they're not.
They're
like,
just looking out for you.
In the military, I really believe. Go ahead.
Senior leadership, especially the leadership I had at the time, my first sergeant was Delta Force. So he's a bigger dude.
Yeah.
Badass, you know. I've heard some stories. He's done some good things. He knows his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I'm gonna be like, all right, yeah. I'll deal with it when I get back, but I'm not gonna let it affect the deployment because that makes me a liability.
Yeah.
On a mission or something like that. I don't want to be a liability.
So real quick, fast forward to 2024, and something that I'm seeing a lot right now in people complaining and talking about the military is that they keep saying that they feel like their leadership isn't looking out for them, like they don't have leaders. And I'm curious if that's true, or if it's just the same mentality we had of feeling like I'm just a lance corporal or a PFC, and we have someone telling us what to do, and we're not happy with it, and we get out, and maybe we start to realize that we miss that. We don't have that out here. That tough love, that experienced person knowing that they can say something to you and you're going to listen. And I'm curious to where the disconnect is now. All right, so let's move on from that. Let's talk about something else. So, all right, we're back in, where was it? Where'd you move to when you got out?
Salina, Kansas.
All right, so we're in Kansas. You're with Savannah. And then what's going on then? You're still drinking a lot. You're going from job to job. What else?
Still drinking a lot. Just not a very happy person. I'm gonna be honest. I really wasn't. Like, I mean, me and Savannah were toxic at the time. We just, we didn't find our groove yet.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it had to do with the alcohol and just I still had that military mindset of I'm right, you're wrong, kind of the ego.
Yeah.
And I let that get a lot.
And what about now? Let's fast forward a little bit. And I know we're jumping way ahead, right? But what can you, if you could go back in time, what would be the things that you wish you could tell yourself? What are the things that you know you were doing wrong back then that not only now have you changed, but now you're like so much more self-aware. You've made all these freaking amazing changes in your life. I see them. I get to help you with them. I get to guide you in the direction that you're already moving towards. But what are the big changes that you've made now, and what do you wish you could tell yourself way back then?
One of the big changes that I've made now is cutting out the bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
Because Alcohol, it's a crutch.
Okay.
Tobacco, it's a crutch. And then getting back in the gym.
Yeah.
And going to therapy, that's really helped me a lot. I've had a couple of therapists now since I've been out.
Yeah. And you feel like therapy is helping you?
Therapy's helping, and I actually just got back into therapy in person. It was telemed.
Yeah.
But telemed doesn't work for me.
Okay. Doesn't work for some people.
I gotta be face to face.
Right. And do you feel like therapy helped you?
Yes, it does.
What would you say to that young veteran that just got out? He's been out for 2, 3, 4, 5 months. He's dealing with some of this shit. He's angry all the time. His ego is what drives him. He's drinking all the time. What would you say to him to help him realize that maybe he needs to make some changes? Maybe he needs to start therapy. If you were speaking to, how old were you when you got out?
I got out in 2019. 28.
So what are some of the things you would say to yourself then? Would speak from the heart.
Some of the things I would say is like, what are you doing, dude?
Uh-huh.
Like, you're going down the wrong path. At the time, I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I'm like, I'm good, I'll find my way eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it's just, I should have gotten to therapy a lot sooner.
Right there. So like,
It's reaching out for help. Not even, that could have been like creating a relationship.
but you felt like you needed to figure out your own.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this right now, Stephen. Are you still figuring it out on your own in one way, shape, or form right now?
Yeah.
You are.
It's all a learning curve.
Right, but the fact that you decided to join the academy, the fact that you decided to do therapy when you did, the fact that you quit the drinking, the fact that you changed a lot of the negative habits, the fact that like you healed your marriage, that was you figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
But with help.
With guidance of my wife.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
She's really been a big inspiration.
But you decided to like start listening. It was figuring it out. My point is that I think a lot of veterans don't realize that getting help is them figuring it out. They think that the moment that they ask for help, it's out of their control, it's out of their hands, but they're still the one that asked. They're still the one that have to show up for the therapy. They're still the ones that made a difference in their lives.
What a lot of veterans that I see nowadays feel like asking for help, they look at it as weakness. It's not weakness.
All right, let's stop for a minute. This is the part of the episode where I ask you to do me a favor, but it's not a favor for me. It's a favor for your fellow brothers and sisters that served with you. Do me a favor. Think hard and share this podcast with someone that you think would benefit from it. If you know someone that has been struggling, if you know someone that is going through it right now, and you know that they want better for life, they just don't know how to do it. If this podcast can help them, do it. That's it. That's my only ask. If you want to follow me, then great. You want to subscribe? Go for it. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for your time. Back to the episode.
So going to therapy, you're saying it's not weakness, but a lot of people, specifically veterans we're talking about here, they see it as weakness because in the military, did you know anybody that went to therapy?
I knew a couple people.
Yeah?
They weren't consistent with it.
But you knew of them because of what people said about them, or you knew them personally?
I knew them personally. They were my unit.
Okay. And did it help them when they were in?
Yes.
All right.
It helped. I can't say from their experience, but I can say from my experience that.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What was your experience with therapy?
I was going through a rough patch, going through a divorce. My kids left. I had a ton of responsibility alongside that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an enormous amount of pressure on me. And that's when I went to my drinking, and I was drinking a lot.
How often?
Every day.
So every day you were drinking. And in the military, you drank every day.
Every day.
So drinking has been a problem in your life for a while.
It has, and it's actually in my family as well.
So it runs in your family. It's generational?
Yes.
All right. What was the moment for you when you realized that you needed to fucking quit drinking so much?
When I saw my dad, struggling.
Talk a little bit about that.
My dad was alone. Went from relationship to relationship. But I was very, very close to him. You know, his family, my dad. He's kind of like the only one that kind of reached out to me at the time. But I was very close to my dad. I mean, I didn't agree with everything he did.
Yeah?
Because the drinking was bad.
But it was what you knew?
Is what I knew. Yes. And then in September of 2020, or August of 2022.
Yeah.
This is before I lost my dad. He's calling me in excruciating pain. He was also type 2 diabetic. So and then he was drinking alongside that. So he wasn't taking care of himself. And then I was actually sitting in a bar, which probably wasn't the best place to be when my dad called me. Because I went and me and my wife, we love nachos. They had the best nachos in town.
Yeah.
And then I'll order a beer too because I was there.
Okay, so just not kind
of convenience thing, like, while I'm waiting on my nachos, I'm gonna get a couple beers.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad, he calls me while I'm at the bar, and he was in excruciating pain. He just needed me to stay on the phone with him so he can get across the house. That's how much pain he was in.
Oh.
Could hardly walk. And I was actually in tears at the bar, because I was ways away.
Yeah.
My dad's in Oregon. I'm in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing I can do. I reached out to my brothers. I actually went home crying. Or not crying, but I was in tears.
Yeah.
Because that night I went home to my wife and I was like, I give my dad 2 weeks tops.
Shit.
And then
What was it that made you know that? I'm curious here.
Because I knew my dad. I knew he was drinking again. I knew he was alone.
Yeah?
Had nobody. My brothers were local, but they didn't really reach out to him. My brother Jay, he went and checked on him, made sure he was good, helped him out when he needed to. But the text, I reached out to my brother. I was like, "Hey, Jason, you need to go and check on D. He's not doing well." He's like, he responded with, "He's fine. He's good." I was like, "You need to get him to the VA."
I'm assuming here,
Because he was in so much pain he couldn't drive.
and I'm assuming here that the reply that you got was because they saw it so often that it was normal to them.
Yeah, but I saw it from a whole different perspective. I knew he just needed help. He needed guidance.
Yeah.
And
So then what happened?
September 21st, 2022, my brother Matt calls me out of the blue. He's like, "Steve, are you sitting down?" And then he said, Exact words, Dad's dead. And then hung up the phone. Like, and I was in shock. I mean, I kind of knew it was coming, but I was in shock. And then in October, at the beginning of October, my brothers flew me out there to go to his funeral, all that stuff. And then I drove back.
Yeah.
And I drove back from Oregon just with his best friend, Blackie, his dog, service animal.
Okay.
And then pretty much we went on with life, you know. I mean, I was still grieving. I was in a lot of shit at the time, but you know, life goes on. I mean, it was a really hard. My dad was only 53 years old.
Shit. That's young.
And I didn't grow up with a mom. I mean,
how did this help you realize that the drinking was a problem for you?
I know type 2 diabetes runs in my family.
Okay.
And I came to the realization that, so my dad's gone, I'm going to live longer without my dad than with my dad. Which is, it's a mind.
Oh, yeah.
But I knew that I needed to change my ways to be better for my kids and my family.
That's powerful.
Because if I didn't change when I changed,
Yeah.
I could be right there with them.
So having this realization, what did you start doing differently? What was it that helped you get past that point of always drinking, always feeling sorry for yourself, always going from job to job?
I just needed to change my mindset. Like, it all comes to your body will go further than your mind will.
Yeah.
But I had to change my mindset before I could physically do it.
And you started making some changes in your mindset.
Yeah, I had to make some changes in my mindset. I went to therapy probably every week after my dad passed because
That helped?
it helped a lot.
Good.
Because I didn't know how to deal with it.
Right.
I mean, we all experience loss, but I don't think I was expecting. None of us expect to lose your dad at that early of an age.
How old are you?
2022, so I was 30. 30?
So you lost your dad when you were 30.
Yeah.
That's hard, man. I can't imagine losing my dad, and I'm older than that, but you use that as a reason to make some changes in your life instead of being angry about it. And
Don't get me wrong.
I mean, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I was pissed at my dad. Like, dude,
Yeah.
you, like, should have listened to me. Because I told him to change. I told him, you need to go to the VA. Mm-hmm. If I was up there, I would have gotten him to the VA. But, you know, I had my own to take care of.
Yeah.
I had my family to take care of.
And how are you taking care of your family now? How did that affect the way that you are being a father and showing up for yourself now?
Putting down the bottle.
How long ago was it when you put down the bottle? So
I slowed down on drinking when my dad died, but I didn't quit.
Okay.
Once I put down the alcohol and the nicotine. I put down the alcohol first. I don't want to cold turkey both at the same time. Mm-hmm. New Year's of 2023, New Year's Eve. That's the last beer I had.
New Year's of 2023.
Yes. New Year's Eve, 2023. So I haven't had a drink since, it's been a little over 3 months now.
And it's not that you can't control the alcohol. It's just that you don't want it anymore. You found different things in your life, right?
It doesn't benefit me. It's a depressant. It doesn't give me any value
So we've talked a lot about your past. I want to fast forward a little bit, and I want to talk about you deciding to join a program. This program, my program, right? I want to talk about what was it that caused you to say that you needed that extra support, the extra guidance, the community, the accountability, all of that. Like, what was it for you that was the thing that helped you decide to make a commitment, not to this program, but to yourself, to actually follow through with shit?
First, it would probably be my wife.
Your wife?
Yeah, because I came across your program, and I came across your videos. You reached out, and we talked on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
And me and my wife had
But initially it was on TikTok, right?
It was initially on TikTok, yes.
But you couldn't get a hold of me, so you found a way to find me on Instagram.
I found a way to find you on Instagram. You told me to look you up on
I
Instagram.
did. I remember now.
And I told my wife's like, just do it.
Yeah?
Because, yes, it's a lot of money. But it's an investment in yourself.
It is a lot of money. It's an investment in yourself. And I'm not hiding that from anybody, so I'm glad you said it, because you need to decide to invest in yourself.
Because money comes and goes, but your health can take a toll if you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah. And you decide to renew before you even hit your renewal time for a whole year with your wife, right?
Yes, I chose to renew because if I'm going to commit, I'm going all in.
Love that.
I'm not gonna hold back. I mean, I've been hitting it hard since I've been in the program.
And then your wife decided to join with you.
Yeah, my wife decided to join with me, yes.
Has it helped with having your wife in the program with you?
Yes, because we're a team.
Yeah.
So
what are some of the changes that you've seen in yourself since you joined?
More energy, more passion.
Yeah?
Passion's a good one.
How about purpose?
And I have purpose.
What's your purpose now?
To take care of me so I can take care of my family, my kids.
I love that.
My kids see me thriving because our kids are sponges. They're gonna soak everything up and they're gonna be like, I want to be like him.
So you've been in this program, you've gotten some passion, some purpose, and I can attest to this. So Steven has been not only doing the workouts, but he's been hitting his macros. He's been showing up to all the coaching calls, and he applies what we talk about. Because at the end of the day, information without action is just noise. So Steven and his wife, Savannah, they have both been showing up. The reason we're here today is because Steven and his wife decided to take a trip, and they did a detour, and they came to Chicago. That's the reason we're filming this podcast. That's the reason why I decided to have my first guest on. And it's a little bit different. This is the first time that I'm doing this. It's the first time he's doing this, so it's both new to us. But it was important. It was important because I want him to be able to share his story. It's important because he asked to do this. And I'm going to ask you, Steven, like, what is next for you? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want this to be for you, right? And that's a hard question because we don't think about the future. But I think that you know that one of the things that I talk about is thinking in decades, not days, thinking about the future, because your present situation is exactly that. It's your present situation because of your past decisions. But the future, you actually can control it because you can make different decisions, right? So, like, what does the future hold for you?
I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah?
Sky's the limit. I came across a TikTok video that who's your role model?
Mm-hmm.
And it's me in 10 years.
Yeah.
Or it's me in 5 years. So you're always chasing your better self.
Was it Matthew McConaughey?
I believe so.
I've seen that video. I love that video.
I was like, that is
It's true.
It's true. Like if you're always chasing a better version of yourself, you're always gonna grow.
Yeah.
No matter how little, no matter how big, you're gonna grow.
So where do you see yourself in 10 years? Be unrealistic, man.
Buying a house.
Uh-huh.
Or being in my house. Already paid for.
Paid for. Nice. Love that. What else?
In the best shape of my life, because I'm always going to the gym, so I'm going to be in the best shape of my life physically, mentally as well. Just watching my kids grow.
I love that.
My kids are going to be,
Yeah.
kids are growing, but yeah, I see myself just thriving in the next.
And what would you say to past you? Like looking back when you decided to start making some changes in your life, right? And it's one of those questions that's really hard to really answer because like you don't know what you don't know. But knowing what you know now, what would you say to past you to keep yourself growing? Think of this as a message to past you, to present veterans who are struggling, who are having a hard time with alcohol, with getting out, with purpose, mission, community, all these different things. What would you say to them? What's the one message that you wish you could fucking impart on everybody so they listen?
It's a tough question.
It is. It is, and that's why we're here, right?
Don't fall down that rabbit hole. Don't let your mind's gonna give up a lot quicker than your body will. Because your negative thoughts, you're gonna think negatively before you think positively. That's just the natural way of thinking nowadays. Don't let those negative thoughts destroy your positive thinking. And what I see a lot of veterans do is they let the negative outweigh the positives.
Yeah.
And then they spiral.
Yeah.
But the advice I'd give a struggling vet is get help. Always ask for help. It's not a weakness. It's not a weakness at all.
One of the things that we have in VetRise Academy in the Savage Squad is community. Do you feel like community has helped you, and do you feel like people need that?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of it's not just a support group, it's a family.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. I mean, everybody in the program right now, we're all in this together. We all could ask for advice. We all could be vulnerable, like you say. It's hard to be vulnerable sometimes.
Yeah.
Like even today for me.
How do you feel right now doing this?
I feel great.
Yeah?
I feel like I got a lot off my chest because I've been holding back a lot. I mean, my past. Your past does not define you.
Yeah, say it louder.
Your past does not define you.
Fuck right. That's fucking right. It doesn't define you. And I'm fucking proud of you, Steven.
We all make mistakes, whatnot, but just just learn from them. Move on.
And you took action today because you guys came here to Chicago. Honestly, because of you and Savannah, we were able to get 7 of the Savage Squad members together in one place and had dinner. And it turned into a little coaching session, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about commitments, and we talked a lot about the fact that we identify a lot of the negatives in our life, but we don't celebrate the wins enough, because when we celebrate the wins, we build confidence. And when we build confidence, we have all this proof, all this evidence behind us that says that we can do anything we want to do.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it wasn't for you, and me joining this program, I don't know where I'd be at, to be honest with you.
It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Because I just needed a sense of direction.
Do you feel like you have that now?
Yes. I mean, I was starting to go to the gym before I came into this program, but I feel like I have a sense of direction, sense of purpose, sense of guidance, and I have a community that's very involved in my growth.
Mm-hmm. So community has been helpful to you. The workouts, the accountability, the stuff that you were already doing, but doing it better now, right? So the mindset, has it shifted much since you got out, even though you were already doing some work on your own?
Yeah, the mindset has shifted a lot.
Uh-huh.
Because I would always let the negative thoughts just run wild. And then it'll lead to drinking and bad habits, and like I said before, going down that rabbit hole. That's what.
Yeah.
And now it's I wake up in the morning and I'm filled with energy.
What have you started doing in the mornings?
I do ice baths.
Yeah?
Yeah, ice baths have helped a lot. It's
And what made you do that? What inspired you? I have no idea why.
You, coach. Because I saw you in the ice bath, first video I saw you, and I was like,
Yeah.
And then the first ice bath I got into, the temperature was probably about 10 degrees outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I lasted about a minute.
And now you're doing what?
And now I'm at like 15 to 20 minutes.
That's a lot. We need to talk about that.
But I do about 7 to 8 minutes
Good.
per session.
So we're going to start wrapping up here, but the last question I want to ask you is, I want to take this opportunity and use this to hopefully not only keep you going in the right direction, but other people. And I want to tell you that I'm very proud of you, that I know that you're very proud of yourself, that you're doing something amazing. I'm very proud of this program. The things that happened today were absolutely just mind-blowing for me. And I still can't get over the fact that I had 7 of my clients, students, members, whatever you want to call them, because they honestly feel like family, like just sitting at a dinner table with me, eating steak and just talking. It was beautiful. And you put that together, you and Savannah, and I want to thank you for that. But the last thing I want to ask you is, if you had to give a message to someone that has been listening to my podcast, someone that's been watching my videos, and they're thinking about joining, what would be the thing that you think you want to share with them that will help them make the decision to join?
One thing is, Coach knows what he's talking about. He knows how to guide you in the right direction. Even if you think you know it all, you don't. Just trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
If you trust the process, it'll definitely benefit you in the long run.
I love that. Thank you. All right, Steven, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you for an awesome experience. I appreciate you. In case you want to say anything else to anybody out here listening, go for it. It's your space.
I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do a podcast with you.
Honestly, man, this was your doing. Like, I was driving, and it was a very busy day for me. But because you took action, it inspired me to be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's figure it out. And here we are figuring it out. It's not perfect, but honestly, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for progression. And you inspired me to do it. I said, yes. This has been my longest episode. I think it's definitely past an hour at this point. There's a bunch of different ones. There's definitely been past an hour. And I'm okay with that. I love that. I think that we talked a lot about a lot of things. I know this definitely won't be the last time you're on here. We're going to figure out how to keep having you on, and we'll talk more about what you've done. And I want to have you on in 6 months, and then we can talk about the progress you've made in 6 months. Because I mean, you're with me for a year at least, and then we'll see what happens. I think you'll probably stick around, and I love having you around. And yeah, you're welcome, man. It was your doing.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Thank you.
And it's really hard to be vulnerable for anybody out there. Service members, it's a challenge, but if you get out of your comfort zone, you'll feel a lot better.
I like that. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and stop here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this recent episode of the VetRise Podcast with my guest, Stephen Munding. It was a first experience. It definitely won't be a last, and it was absolutely amazing. We had no plan, no specific script. I just knew that there was going to be a lot of stuff that not only that I want to talk about, but I know Stephen wanted to put out there. And he took a leap of faith. He decided to be vulnerable, and I, for one, am very proud of him. So if his story moves you, if his message moves you, take action. Be like Stephen. Make the decision to do something about something. It could be joining a gym. It could be starting meal prep. It could be getting therapy. It could be going to the VA finally. It could be ending a relationship or starting a relationship or ending a friendship or deciding to quit your job or start that business. Whatever it is, like, you got to just take action. Because you won't know what's possible until you take action. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's never going to be a right time. There is never, ever, ever going to be a right time. And if you can do it now, when you are in the depths of hell, or if you can do it now when you are getting better, imagine where you will be in 3, 4, 5 months, 5 years, 15 years, all because you decided to flip the switch, stop playing the victim, and take action and take control of your life. Thank you for your time.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the VetRise Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, made you think, or simply just gave you hope, I have a small favor to ask. Share it with just one veteran or someone you think could benefit from my message. Your share could light a spark for them. You don't know who you might save. For more insights and to join this mission, follow my socials at JP the Veteran Coach and explore how we can rise together. Thank you for joining us, for being part of this journey, and for believing in the power of rising together as veterans. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep rising, and never forget we are stronger together. My name is Juan Perez, and thank you for your time.